And my wife and I woke up one day and we thought, we can't keep living in this space. I think there's something more for us out there. And so we got rid of everything we owned, got rid of our house, beautiful home in San Diego.
Hi, and welcome to the Story, a podcast where storytellers disrupt. I'm David Noronha.
And I am Fabiano Altamura.
And before he has this beautiful way of introducing his name, and it catches me off guard. I don't know why it is. I just never get tired of it. I never get tired of it. But before we hop into more shenanigans, ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, subscribe, follow, give us that 5-star review, and let a friend know about us. Brother, who do we have in the hot seat today?
We have the amazing filmmaker Philip LeClerc and Instagram influencer. I'm going to share your brief bio, Philip. So Philip LeClerc is an acclaimed filmmaker and master storyteller with 2 decades of expertise in video production and content creation. His career as a filmmaker has seen him collaborate with industry giants traversing all 50 states and 25 countries, from the Galapagos Islands to the Amazon rainforests, the frozen glaciers of Iceland, to retracing the Apostle Paul's journey throughout the Mediterranean. Notably, he has lent his creative vision to documentaries in diverse terrains, including the earthquake-ravaged island of Haiti and ancient ruins of the Peruvian lost civilization. Currently based in Redding, California, Philip resides with his wife Esther and their 3 sons, Philip Jr., Phoenix, and Phineas. Here he runs his video production company, The Visual Collective, while mentoring filmmakers worldwide and guiding them toward achieving their cinematic aspirations. Wow, what a bio.
You know,
Philip, welcome to the Story podcast.
Are like the moon and Mars, brother. Right?
Exactly.
I actually had a ticket to space at one time too. So
wow.
Sorry, wait. Let's just reverse before we say, well, Philip, welcome. How the heck did you get a ticket to space? Like literally?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on today. It's an honor, and it's been a fun 20 years so far as a filmmaker. And yes, I feel like that is just, it's been a journey going to the Amazon, to the Galapagos Islands, all over Europe, Iceland. And, but I did have a ticket to space at one time actually as well.
How did you get that?
We were working with the same organization that was traveling me around the world, to all these remote locations. And they wanted to bring the first female, woman, it was like under 20-year-old individual, to space. Oh. And so we were going to be part of the film crew to get on the Virgin Galactic flight.
Oh, wow.
And so we were online. We were in line. I think we were number 200 to actually get in that flight. And so we had the pre-reserves in. We put down like several $100,000 the organization had for our seats. We were ready to go. And then the organization fell apart. So,
oh, wow.
Wow. What a story.
The organization you were working with or Galactic?
So the organization that we were working with, the ministry, ended up falling apart. But I like to tell people that, hey, I had a ticket at one time to space. But,
wow.
That's a great title. It might be the title of this episode. I can imagine it my ticket to space.
I had a ticket to space. So Philip, tell us, like, how did you start your journey into filmmaking? Like, where did it all begin?
Yeah. So for me, it was actually a journey with my brother and I. We started when we were just teenagers. And so we started with film festivals, and I was just 15 years old. And my brother was a couple years younger than me, and we started just making movies in our backyard. I grew up on a farm in Wisconsin, and we raised horses, goats, chickens, and we made our first couple of films that actually got accepted into a Christian film festival in San Antonio, Texas, that really inspired us to continue pursuing film. And a lot of people ask, well, how did you get the money to actually start making your first couple films, buying your gear, all these kind of things? And we actually did it by selling puppies. And so we actually...
Smart.
Sorry. Ticket to space and selling puppies.
Yes, there we are.
So we sold puppies, and we took that money.
So you bred dogs?
We did.
And then What kind of dogs?
They were Labradors.
Oh,
nice.
It's a good breed, man.
Yep.
And I got to ask, I got to geek out for a second, because, like films like 8mm and, Spielberg's Story and, I shot on 8mm. I'm aging myself. What were you shooting on? I'm assuming some kind of VHS.
Yeah, it was mini DV.
Mini. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So you're even younger.
The VX1000.
That'll tell how old the filmmaker is,
Yep.
brother. That's fossil structure.
Well, you were on Betamax.
No, I was 8mm, bro. Like
wow.
8mm.
So 8mm.
Yeah, I had a little Super 8 cam. I still actually have it in my garage. I kept it. And I would shoot little things and I would splice them and then I would actually convert to VHS. That's how old I am.
You would convert to VHS. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you started raising, so you're an entrepreneur as well. That's kind of like business has been your background. You did something else to film.
Yeah, I love
fund
your
side
hustle
it's amazing.
Yeah, my dad had always encouraged us to really just be entrepreneurial and think outside the box when it came to just making it happen. You know, we were like young, but we didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea when it came to film, really. And we saw an opportunity that just required us to make more money to buy the equipment. You know? Yeah. And so really for us, it was just learning through trial and error. You know, we were just buying Home Depot lights at the time.
Yeah.
And reflectors
the metals
made out of
and the bulbs. Yeah.
Basically foil, you know, and just experimenting constantly. We were making films every single week. We'd make one short film.
That's
we did
amazing.
That for years.
So what were your first films about that got into the Christian festivals?
We would make them with our friends. So they were ridiculous stories, you know. My dad wrote our first couple scripts for us.
Yes, he did.
I mean, you know, it's all funny when you look back at it, right? How cheesy is it?
All right, I got to ask. Okay, the best short film you made as a kid and the worst short film that you made as a kid.
Okay, so the worst was called The Attack of the Hoodlums.
Attack of the Hoodlums. Wow, this is fantastic.
Yes.
And what's the basic premise? What's the log line?
Attack of the Hoodlums. Basically, an individual camping in the middle of nowhere gets attacked by a hoodlum group. And
love it.
End of story.
It sounds like a Liam Neeson film.
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
Your first film was a psychological thriller.
Yeah, you could go there. Sure.
Yeah. Okay,
sure.
So that was the silliest or the worst?
Sure. The best film I would say younger was called The White Handkerchief. And this film was really pivotal in our filmmaking career. It was a modern day story of really the prodigal son.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And him returning home, and the white handkerchiefs were held in the windows. It was based off a poem at the time, and the parents welcoming him back, and just this beautiful narrative piece we wrote. And we ended up building sets for it, and really was kind of our first step into actually taking film seriously.
Good for you.
And we actually ended up hiring some actors and paying people for roles and stuff like that. And that film was really pivotal in our career, where we actually attracted individuals like the Kendrick brothers. And
you did? Wow. How old were you at this time then? Like
I was 18.
Gosh, wow.
So I got to ask, you've got Attack of the Hoodlums somewhere in your IMDb, not pro yet. And then you've got The White Handkerchief.
Mm-hmm.
Where was The White Handkerchief in your creative process or journey of learning and growing?
Really, it was year 3 for us.
So 3 years.
It was 3 years, yeah.
How many films do you think, because this is important. I think a lot of creatives just think you get lightning, hit in a bottle, somebody funds your film, but you, how many films did you make over those 3 years?
I mean, we probably made over 20 different films.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. 20 different short films.
How many hours do you think you clocked in those 3 years of filmmaking, man?
I mean, I'm not going to say we didn't put in our 10,000 hours in that time.
Sure.
Right?
You know what I was fishing for?
I mean, we put in hundreds of hours.
Yeah,
we were putting hundreds of hours in for sure. We had the privilege of being homeschooled. And so we had that liberty to really pursue our craft whenever we wanted to.
And your parents never shut it down. They were always encouraged. That's so
our
good.
Parents, I mean, we were just graduating high school as a homeschooler, whatever that means. And they saw this passion in us and they said, go for it. And really allowed us to pursue this at all costs. And they supported it in every step of the way. And really, when we started getting into film festivals and winning film festivals, they're like, hey, maybe you should take this more seriously. And that's when we started our film production company.
That's amazing. And your brother's still involved in the film industry?
He is. He is an incredible filmmaker.
This is a beautiful principle because we often talk to folks that have kids, and I know you do as well. We do as well. And I think it can be scary for parents sometimes, specifically sometimes Christian parents, to support their kids in the arts, because the arts are seen as a place that have a lot of, dark, and listen, honestly, it does, but there's a lot of wolves anywhere and everywhere in the world. I think what was beautiful is that your journey wasn't magical in the sense of it wasn't luck. You were supported, encouraged. Your parents backed you. They created space and time, which is mathematical. And then you clocked 20 films in 3 years. It's like, it's not surprising that you've done what you've done, man, with that kind of construct. I'm not backing out talent. I know that's got to be in there as well. But
we didn't know a thing when we started. So there was no talent from a young age,
But I think the thing is as well, you saw the passion.
Yep.
And you didn't expect somebody to call you.
Yeah.
you started becoming a content creator at what, the age of 15?
Yeah.
And then that's why you've amassed, I guess from that, you've amassed such a massive following on Instagram.
Sure.
Because you understood your craft and you saw, like you said, I'd love to hear how you amassed such a huge following in a bit. But like, I love the fact that you were a proactive content creator out of the gate when you realized your passion and you just decided to learn and you weren't afraid of making the mistakes, right?
Yeah. I mean, really, I think there's a different perspective when it comes to, yes, I encourage kids to go to film school if that's the route they want to go.
Yeah.
But for us, I think we realized we had to take things ultimately into our own learning experiences and just get out there and get dirty, right?
Make films.
Make our own films. And so I think seeing that, we ended up getting approached by a number of our friends who went to film school who wanted to work for our business.
Wow, gosh.
4 years later, they went to film school. They came out and said, hey, we actually would love to work with you guys. You guys seem to be doing great work.
They had $100,000 of debt and one film. So I got to ask, all right, so we get from 15 to 18, mom, dad, they're encouraging homeschool. You graduate 20 films. You got the white handkerchief. Talk to us about the next chapter in, frankly, your career, your creative journey.
Yeah. So really for us, we had made a couple more movies after that, and we had been kind of getting the attention of, again, I'd mentioned the Kendrick brothers at the time, and they actually had watched some of our films. And I would talk to the Kendrick brothers once a week. They would call us and they would just say, hey, how are you guys doing? You know, you're young filmmakers. We believe in you.
Wow.
We want to make sure you guys get what you need. We know what it's like to be in your space.
Would you consider them a form of mentor to
at the
you,
time? 100%. They were mentoring my brother and I. Yeah.
Wow.
They would call us individually. So Stephen Kendrick would call us individually quite often.
They did October Baby, right?
That's the Irwin brothers. Which
that was the Irwin brothers. Sorry, the Kendrick brothers.
Yeah. Also work with them.
Yeah.
So Fireproof and everything.
Yeah, of course. They were the Kendrick brothers. The Irwin brothers in October Baby. That's right. Yeah.
So our story actually leads into the Irwin brothers as well.
Huh.
Yeah. And but along the way, I think we were getting these mentors that are coming alongside of us and just building trust with individuals. And what ended up happening is we had an opportunity to work on, we'd actually got our first large paying commercial gig. And we were 19, I was 19, my brother was 17, and it was $100,000 project.
Good Lord.
That's the product?
Yeah, it was actually for train industry.
Wow.
So,
gosh, that is amazing, man.
And there's a lot more to that story, but really we were approached with this opportunity to tell this story. It was a 40-minute documentary we ended up making. And I remember the train owner coming to us and said, hey, don't waste this money on Corvettes, each of you. I'm like, okay, well, don't waste these money, boys, you know. And he gave us this giant check in our life, remember this? And we took it and we invested it into education.
Wow.
Good.
And we realized, hey, we still have so much to learn when it comes to film. And there was an opportunity for us to work on a film set with filmmakers at the time that we had really looked up to. And they were doing a film in the Galapagos Islands. They were making a documentary, and they weren't accepting anyone to work on their set. And so we said, hey, we'll pay to be on this trip with you.
Wow.
$9,000 per piece. So each paid $9,000 to be on this trip. And it was the Irwin brothers.
Wow.
And we ended up just hustling through this journey, working with them in this very intimate relationship in these islands for 10 days we were out there. And we developed relationships not only with them, but the producers of the project and a host of other individuals, you know, and that really was for us a pivotal moment in our career where a number of doors just opened up to us.
That's amazing. You know what I love about this story? It's like a lot of filmmakers, Christian filmmakers as well, because that's really our environment at the moment, right? Somebody asked me at this, you and I, so Philip came to a film mixer that Ben Ginola from Exodus Cry, myself and Nate from The Stirring put on. And somebody asked this question. How do you get into the industry? This was a side question that I had, a sidebar. And I said, you've got to add value to the person you want to pursue.
That's good.
Right? And I love what you did, that you took that $100,000, you invested 18,000 of it in education to go and serve another filmmaker that you looked up to. Mm-hmm. I think that's something I feel a lot of people lose because they have entitlement, right? In some ways.
Mm-hmm. I'm reading this book. Robert Greene wrote this book called Mastery. And what's funny is you and your brother intuitively did key things that Robert Greene lists out as a part of apprenticeship, mentorship, education. I mean, listen, not only was it a wise investment, but it went even beyond education. It was educational apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Also developing relationship with a mentor in it who could also then launch. I mean, it worked like on 3 or 4 different levels. Did you realize that at the time?
Of course not. We were young. We had no idea how any of this works. You know,
you were just like, these guys.
We want to work with these guys. They're doing the best stuff out there. And there's an opportunity for us that I think if we pursued it, it could be there. And that's about as far as we knew. You know, we didn't know that it would open up all these other doors.
And what was the doc on?
Oh, the doc on, it was actually, we were revisiting the islands for the 250th of Charles Darwin.
Now that's ironic.
Yeah. Right.
Faith-based filmmakers documenting
the Godfather of Evolution.
Exactly. And we were talking about, you know, where Darwin had it wrong, you know, and we had scientists down there with us and stuff like that.
So it was like a faith-based take on the anniversary.
Yes.
Interesting. Genius. Yeah. I didn't know that. I mean, was that early on in the Erwin brothers?
It was probably one of their first bigger projects. Huh. I mean, they were starting to get known by some smaller projects. They'd done some TV series, and this was kind of their first big documentary. So
amazing, man. All right. So you made films as a young kid. You get in with the Erwin brothers. What's the next chapter like? What's that next big quantum leap for you guys?
Yeah. So we ended up doing that, and we ended up working with the Erwin brothers with a number of their projects and TV series, and had been on really their sets for months on and off, and ended up getting to the point where they felt as if they, I mean, we had volunteered so much of our time, they couldn't pay us, you know, and so they ended up giving us all their old equipment. So
my goodness,
we had all of their old jibs and tracks, trucks and stuff for
a little bit better than the mini DV cam that you
And so I think we were starting to say, hey, we feel more confident now to take on some of these larger productions. And I think there was a moment in our career where we had to decide really also, do we want to pursue films or do we want to pursue this as a business? And really, there was that tension, I think, in our lives, especially early on. What do we want to do here? And we had been approached by several producers and fairly large budgets at the time. One of them was over $1 million. And they said, hey, we'd love you to produce this film or make this film with you guys. And we said no.
Why?
Because we didn't feel like we had the skill sets to carry that through.
That was smart, man. That's a lot of humility, because a lot of people would just jump at the mill and fake it. And then maybe, was it the right decision?
It 100% was. We had a number of our friends who just really pursued that, even with larger budget short films and even feature films and larger budget. Of course, it's not larger budget, but for us at the time, that was a larger budget, hundreds of thousands of dollars or low millions. And, I think they really struggled to kind of get over that independent marketplace when it came to films in that space, and just getting the momentum long-term. I think there's a lot of struggle in that space, you know, and where we really chose to go the production route and building our company and really building on a business. So I think for us, it's like, I would love to pursue those films down the road and make films down the road. But for me, I'm still growing as a creator, as a director, and really want to get more of that experience under my belt before I make something larger.
So how did you learn the fundamentals of storytelling then? Because obviously it's all right understanding the equipment. And having all this great equipment is all right. But how did you understand the story structure and the fundamentals of it?
I mean, it's a good question. We would read a number of those books, you know, there's always like Save the Cat and some of those great classics, you know, so, there's so much available to us as creators just to learn about storytelling and watching and studying films and listening to talks on directors. And, and I think it's also when you go to film festivals and you're able to watch an audience's reaction on what they're connecting with, that was really helpful for us. It's like, okay, they're laughing at this part or they're crying at this part, you know, and then you kind of tweak it the next year, maybe a different, way you edit that section or something like that. And so, for us, it was, learning as we go, but also like filling ourselves with that great material that's available to any creator, really.
So you have $82,000 left or thereabouts. What did you do with that?
Corvettes? Bought a red camera.
Oh, you did? You bought a red?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
What year are we in now in the chronology for you guys?
So we're like 2021, early 20s, but
so not too long ago.
We can jump ahead too.
Okay.
A little bit if that's too early.
So so you buy some high-end gear. And what's the next big step after the Erwin brothers and going on your own?
Totally. So again, we had done this commercial gig where we were working with a lot of agencies in the Midwest, Chicago, Milwaukee, and really traveling the country and working with a lot of different organizations and brands and did a lot of commercial projects. And it really was getting exhausting.
Really?
It was really wearing on me, especially. And I was newly married at the time and really was saying, is this my future forever? You know, is this my future forever? And I think we had started so early that I was now in my mid-20s, early to mid-20s.
You're starting to get a little burnt
out. And I'm going, I don't know if I want to do this forever.
Right.
I don't know if I like working in the agency space, working with these creative directors and feeling that pressure and that stress. And I was getting a ton of anxiety in that space and just not feeling even that my work was rewarding either. You know, I was looking for something that I wasn't getting what I had hoped for when I started film. You know, I think for me, it was like film could be a place for me to inspire people for good, you know, for the kingdom. And here we had been so consumed with just building a business and creating content for commercials and whatnot, that I think it was clear to us that something had to change.
I think a lot of creators go through that, don't they? I mean, you get in, you have this dream of this being a filmmaker, an actor, whatever you want to be. And there is a point, I think, I mean, it's like every hero's journey, isn't it? There's a point, I think, where you hit this, as John Bunyan would say, the slough of despond, where you feel like I start to reevaluate why I got into this in the first place, because, you know, you're making money from doing what you loved and what you set out to do. But then I think you question it and go, gosh, is this the direction I thought I was going to go in? So,
yeah, there's the idea of the thing, and then there's the actuality of the thing.
Yeah.
They don't always line up. I think occasionally they do. I'm curious. I mean, I know from my own experience doing commercial work that though it can be lucrative, it can be incredibly grueling. The budgets are big for very short little things. But I'm curious, before we get to the tough part, to the challenge, which you're beginning to hint at, what did you learn from doing essentially 30 to 60 second, very expensive short films? What did commercials teach you about story and about film and about,
I mean, really, it taught us how much goes into creating 1 second, you know, really one moment. And we were working with, 30, 50 person crews and there's just a lot of moving parts, to creating one shot and making sure the client's in agreement that this is the exact frame they're capturing, and they're looking over your monitor and they're saying, we're signing off on this, and all the scripting and the boards that go into creating that one scene. And then when you press record, it's like, here we go, and I think the process is a lot more challenging, I think, that people realize.
Those 30-second spots, it's blood, sweat, and tears.
Every second has to count for something.
Yeah, right? I mean, I remember
space, really.
I did a Spanish Domino's commercial with Miss Venezuela at the time. I was young. I was just in LA. I still recall, because I had to take a bite out of a pepperoni pizza every single take. We did 64 takes of one thing just to get my reaction, her reaction. They weren't feeding her all day. They were giving her just like little pieces of chocolate because she was like on starvation mode.
So let me ask you this, 64 takes. Was that because you were a bad actor?
That is a distinct possibility.
I was just saying, I'm just trying to say, it's like, I did 64 takes. Oh, okay.
I had so much sodium in my mouth.
What a good Lord.
And there was literally a guy just off the set. So, I mean, I know from my own experience, whether it was the Honda commercials that I did or the budget commercials where, they would lock us in a room around the conference table doing budget commercials. They're dropping millions and millions of dollars, and they want everything exactly the way they want.
Yep, 100%. Yeah.
You must have learned a lot about leadership, because you're still young. You're leading a crew of 50 people, big budgets and stuff. What did you learn, or what did the Lord teach you about leadership and culture?
Really, it was, for us, we understood that, hey, everyone's trying to put food on the table for their families. And we were young, and we're working with individuals in their 30s and 40s at the time. But at the same time, we did our best to make it the most positive environment for them, where we always focus on our crafty table and making sure they had more than enough, a place to really, we didn't like to push them overtime. If we did, of course, we're paying overtime. But we love to even give them, when it was possible, to pay them as soon as possible. I think it was like looking for ways to really bless our crew, bless our crew.
Make it irresistible to work with you guys.
We want to make this the best experience working for our team.
How did you handle your beliefs, being a believer? What did that look like culturally for you on these commercial shoots, both with the client and with your crew?
I think, for the most part, people are pretty cordial. When you're in charge of everything, they're not looking to really overly disagree with you or maybe argue with, so I think like you have an opportunity to set the tone. And, obviously our faith underlines everything we're doing. And so even working with our producers, I think we attracted people who also supported our values. And they were Christian or not. They were respectful and wanted to keep our sets in that same tone.
Great. So you go through this period of like where you're questioning everything. After that, what life decisions did you make?
Totally. So really for me, it was what is going to be the healthiest for my wife and I and my family moving forward.
Yeah, it's good.
Because now I'm starting a family at this time. And
what year is this?
This is, it's 10 years ago. So I'm 36 now.
Yep.
So do the
young,
math.
you're a baby.
Yep. And so we had come to this point where, hey, what's going to be the healthiest for us? And so we ended up kind of going through this journey of moving out of where we're at. My brother continued to pursue the commercial world. He moved to LA. We moved to the West Coast. And for us, it was starting this whole new chapter of what does life look like next? And we just kind of this exploratory season. We're doing some projects, but really a lot of just reflecting back. And there was some opportunities when it came to kind of the beginning of Instagram and a lot of these kind of early days on Instagram that we were able to say, hey, there's some things that I'd love to be part of and begin. And I think could be more lifestyle positive with my family in this space. And so we really started taking our knowledge of the film industry, at least for myself, and looking to connect in more of that social media market.
Because I mean, how did you amass such a huge following?
Totally. So it was, I mean, I say huge following. I feel like everyone has huge followings these days.
Not us.
Not us.
Me.
Not us. Not me.
I mean, I mean,
what are we talking?
Following?
Just
well, you've been up to 100K, haven't you? Now you're at 68 thou?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, a lot of my friends have, you hang out in that space, you feel like you're nobody, so I mean, it is what it is.
Well, you're somebody here, man. So, I mean, I'm curious, Instagram, a lot of these things are, 10, 15, 30 seconds. Did your experience as a commercial filmmaker influence your ability to speak the language of social media, duration wise, that kind of stuff?
Not until recently.
Oh, interesting.
Because really Reels are a more recent thing.
Okay.
Instagram Reels. And I would say I've reinvented myself again and really Instagram for me was actually me learning about photography. And I jumped into this space as a photographer, really, shooting on my iPhone.
Oh, wow.
And then next thing you know it, I'm taking more videos and better photos, whatever, and connecting with other Instagrammers. And really now I think it's interesting because I think there's a clear difference between commercial filmmakers and Instagram content creators. And there's a big difference. And people don't realize the two don't necessarily overlap.
Right. Two different mediums.
It really is. It's understanding the algorithm. It's understanding how to create content that hits on those specific highs or those beats, right? Those short time, limited time frame stuff. And so I think for me, it's been, taking my commercial knowledge of high production value and then infusing it with sort of that understanding how social media works through those algorithms.
I caused you to hopscotch. I want you to roll back for me if you would. So you move, there's this huge switch in your life. You discover Instagram and you say, hey, okay, I'm going to bend storytelling to my family instead of the other way around. Talk to me about the early days and what that journey was like.
Yeah. I think with, anything new, there's a moment of, am I doing the right thing?
Sure. Was it scary?
Yeah, it was 100%. We didn't know for many years. We had a lot of, misunderstanding from family as to, hey, you had built this whole thing in the Midwest. Why are you guys doing something different? And it's funny because looking back now, my family would say it was the best thing, not only for us, but for my brother, for our entire family. It catapulted us all into very healthy lifestyles and moving out of where we were at, and everyone's doing very well in their own right, kind of thing. And so, but in the moment, I think when you're doing something new, when you're pursuing something that goes against the norm of what your family, what your friends have defined you as, it's really, really painful. And we were in that place of, I don't know what the heck we're doing, because we had found some sort of a success early on. And now we're saying, forget that. For us, it's what's most important is our mental, spiritual health.
I think this is true, I think, of a lot of artists, right? Like the way that an artist lives their life is just very unusual. Like, first of all, even in the early days, we usually choose something weird to do that family can't. I mean, my Cuban grandfather did not understand the fact that I'd gotten into medical school, but I was going to go be an actor. There were a lot of questions around that. When we came up here for Bethel, I don't know how your family took it, but our family initially was not.
And it's not even the call of the artist.
Yeah.
I think it's just when you engage in the life with the Lord, it's kind of like listening to his voice, isn't it? And sometimes he asks you, a lot of the time he asks you to do things that just don't make sense. Because obviously,
quite often you let go of you're like, wait, Lord, I thought this is what you asked me to say yes to. And he says, yep. Yeah. And now I'm asking you to say yes to this.
100%.
Where were you at on your faith in that moment?
It's a great question. I was actually in a space, as well as my wife, where we both were not in a Holy Spirit filled church. We were in coming out of a Reformed Calvinistic type environment.
Wow, gosh.
And so, but at the same time, we knew this wasn't healthy for us. But there was something in us that we didn't realize at the time, but looking back, it was the Holy Spirit leading us. And I have always been somebody who wants to trust my gut against the societal norms, to be honest. And it doesn't look right to other individuals perhaps, but for me, this is what I feel like the Lord is leading to. I didn't always have a term for that. I didn't always know what it meant. Now I feel like I have language to that, but it's willing to really pursue your passion and the things that you feel being led to at all costs. And at the moment, it's really, really scary. And I'm not saying it always leads to a perfect end goal, but I think you can't live in that space of not knowing if you took that leap of faith to begin with.
Right.
If you just decide that, hey, this is something I'm just going to shove down because of what my family and friends have told me, but I never took that leap of faith. I think it's like really hard to live with that. And so for us, it's like, hey, we know there's more to this life. We know there's things I don't know. As a creator, as a filmmaker, as a husband, as a father, how can I put myself in a different environment where I can grow and become the best in those areas?
So when you moved to the West Coast, because obviously you factor this in, you live in the Midwest, it's considerably cheaper than the West Coast, right?
Oh yeah.
So you moved to San Diego?
Why?
So you moved to San Diego.
Why did you go? No, sorry, I'm really curious because you knew that he did. Why do you move from the Midwest to San Diego?
Well, I don't know how much we want to cover here.
Okay.
But at the time, we had been part of starting an organization that was called Socality. Okay. And we were, at the time, it was one of the fastest growing online community organizations in the world.
Wow.
And outside of Instagram, we were the second.
Oh gosh.
And really, we had hundreds of thousands of followers in this space. And people creators from all over the world. And we were looking for basically bringing creatives together in person. So we were also disconnected online. It was kind of our initial story. And we said, hey, what if we all came together? So we would do gatherings, we do meetups, and this whole idea of the Insta Meet and these gatherings. And so we did hundreds of these things and met thousands of creators.
Wow.
And we ended up doing a lot of events in San Diego with a lot of creatives down there. And
in the faith space or not?
In the kingdom space. Really, we didn't want to label it as Christian.
Of course,
So really there was a space of, we felt that outside the church, there's all these creatives that are hungry to create beautiful art. And inspire,
positive and life-giving and
life. Exactly. And it's like, what if we all came together for good? And so we did a lot of community-based, supporting our city movements. We raised funds for wells in Africa and stuff like that. And so I think it was Christian in its founders.
Yeah, of course.
But we were just bringing people together for purpose.
Right. And then how long were you there before you decided to kind of pack up and travel in an RV across 50 states?
Yeah. So we were in San Diego for 4 years. And it was at that point where our son was almost turning 5 years old.
Wow.
And we had done we'd been to 40 states as a family at the time. We had one boy at the time, Phil. And we thought, hey, I think for us, it was always, again, let me back a little bit. It was really learning to listen to the Holy Spirit. And we were kind of at this point in our life where, okay, what's next? And my wife and I woke up one day and we thought, we can't keep living in this space. I think there's something more for us out there.
Wow.
And so we got rid of everything we owned, got rid of our house, beautiful home in San Diego. And we hit the road because we wanted to finish all 50 states before our 5-year-old turned 5, 50 under 5. 50 under 5. And so I think it was, how can we create these incredible memories for our son and our family together, even if nobody sees it?
Yeah.
Let's just do this. Let's mark this part of our life as an adventure that it's just fun and crazy.
And how long did it take you?
It didn't take us very long. It only took us, it was less than a month because we had done 40 states. And so flew to Hawaii real quick. We'd done Alaska several times before that. And so we drove from San Diego to Maine. And really, of course, we had not done the Northeast living in San Diego. You know, it's like the hardest ones to get to. And we checked those boxes. We had visited all 50 states before he turned 5.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Was there a reason to want to do it before he turned 5? I'm curious.
Challenge.
Just challenge.
I don't know if anyone else had done it like that. And so
cool.
Thought, hey, why not just own that title?
Guinness Book of World Records.
Sure, it has been done many times, but.
So how do you find yourself in this small mountain town in Northern California?
You know, that's a great question. We love it here. I think for me, it's been really fun coming into a space like Redding, which I felt has been so underserved, has been so misrepresented. And coming here, having seen so much of the country and being part of so many different lives in the country, I felt like there was so much to tell in the Redding story, so much to show. And being able to really showcase the beauty of Redding and the people and the businesses and has allowed us to now work with the tourism here and we do most of the videos for the tourism in our state.
Was it the church that brought you up here?
It was.
So you'd heard about Pastor Bill and
yep.
way before, because coming from a Calvinistic background to hearing about Pastor Bill at Bethel Church is like, how did you get into that?
Yeah.
It's like theological.
I mean, it completely is.
Yeah. I mean, that's just us growing in our faith and seeing miracles happening and saying, well, that seems validated to me. That guy got up and walked.
Right.
And we weren't even in this environment that we maybe are here. We were outside of this in SoCal, but seeing these things happening, seeing prophetic words taking place, seeing people get filled with the Holy Spirit, we're like, okay, something's not adding up here, because these seem like genuine experiences,
right, of course, absolutely.
Unlike what we had been told, And so I think that's when the journey began for us. And we started listening to, Pastor Bill and really kind of went on this journey, but it wasn't even pursuing Bethel though. My goal was never even to work up here. It never was the goal. I was just pursuing, my video. We were traveling the country at the time. We'd moved into an RV and actually, we're doing even more states and just photographing for brands and in national parks. And I woke up one day and I told Esther and I said, I feel like I'm going to stop building my entrepreneurial business. I'm going to stop working for myself. And then I'm actually going to be taking a job soon. And she's going, okay, that's awesome. Like, I don't know what that looks like for us, but this has been our story for how many years?
Yeah.
And you're telling me that it's going to be different. And within a couple weeks, I had 2 offers. One was from Bethel Church and one was from Todd White.
Oh, wow.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. And they were both people we had super respected, and they both were video positions in the creative space. And, I never would have pursued something like this, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. And, we said yes to working at Bethel and having no idea that within a month of me taking this job that COVID would happen.
Ooh.
The world would be shut down and that a lot of my clients would have potentially dried up and the work there. And
so do you feel the Lord's hand protected you in advance and gave you that word?
I really do. I really believe that he was protecting us for that couple of years season in this space. And we didn't know at the time, of course. And, it really was such a perfect environment for us. Like we knew we were getting, of course it's not a ton working at a church, but it was enough for us to pay our bills and we felt comfortable. And I was actually still able to operate with some existing clients as well, like a lot of people do here. And so Yeah, 100%. I feel like he was leading us to protect us in this time.
I had that thought the other day. I was talking to Lise, my wife, and, I was a working actor in LA, and I think to myself, I mean, we were always able to provide. It was feast or famine. When money was good, the money was good. When it wasn't, it wasn't. It was tough. But I think, I thought back just the other day, Fab and I have some investments together, and what we've been able to achieve, I never would have been able to achieve in Los Angeles, not as a working actor. My head just wasn't in that space. It was always just gigging and hustling for the next gig. But what I thought about the other day was, had I been in LA during COVID, it would have wiped me out. Yeah. I would have lost everything. So similar to you, the Lord sometimes taps you on the shoulder, and at first you're thinking, what am I doing church news and church announcements, which does not feel like what maybe you dreamt about when you were a 15, 18-year-old kid. And the Lord's like, I got you. Why don't you just serve the brothers, sisters, kings, queens of this house? Yeah. Serve me. I got you. So having served Bethel, because I know you've continued to evolve, other than protecting you from COVID and the losses that your family may have incurred, what was he whispering to you, teaching to you in those moments as a storyteller, as a son, while you served Bethel?
That's a good question. I think coming into that environment, your expectations are maybe in a certain state of what you're going to see, what you're going to really walk through, what an outsider maybe sees in that environment. And I think, for me, it was learning to walk in my authority and to walk confidently in listening to the Lord, walking in power, and feeling that I've kind of been able to look behind the veil, I think, of the questions I had when it came to how does the Holy Spirit work sometimes? I mean, and I feel like I have more questions than ever, of course, but I think like being in an environment, it just kind of thrusts you into, okay, this is what this guy's doing. This is how he wrestles with this. And, I feel like I just learned so much in that space, working directly with Pastor Bill and so many different pastors there, and seeing their humility, seeing the genuineness of individuals, and behind closed doors, for me was just profound, and of course, I think through that environment, through that space, really, I've grown so much, coming out of that. It's like, oh wow, now I'm asking these questions now, because of the things I've learned being in that environment, you know? And
that's awesome. So what's next then? Like what do you feel the Lord is taking you to next? What like deep burning desires do you have that you'd love to see fulfilled?
For me, it's what's the healthiest space that we can create for my family.
Yeah.
And
good.
Building a legacy for my family.
Yep.
And I think the film industry can be so toxic and it can be so unhealthy in so many ways. But I think if we can approach it from, how are we building what we're building to build a legacy for our future generations, There's so many different aspects of film that we are unaware of. There's the commercial side, there's the documentary side, there's the social media side, there's, the streaming side. There's countless sides to filmmaking. And I think it's figuring out where God has called you to.
Yeah.
That gives you the most life.
Yeah.
That gives you the most life for yourself and potentially your family. And for me, it's realizing where I'm at right now and what I'm building is going to be giving me the most life. And that is really equipping the next generation of filmmakers.
Great.
And we're building, and we've actually just launched a platform. It's called Creator Lab.
Great.
And we are equipping filmmakers all over the world to step into their passion, to step into their calling as filmmakers, and to give them a space to connect with others and to learn the basics and fundamentals when it comes to the things that I saw as pivotal. Now I don't need to teach them everything. They can learn everything somewhere else. But I believe that there's some fundamentals people can learn and then to connect with others. And to me, it brings me so much life and excitement to see individuals getting together and then building something that's awesome.
As an educator.
Exactly.
It's funny, isn't it? We've spent our time creating and stuff, and we realize that it's in the education that you really transform. Content absolutely can transform.
Yeah.
but it's in the nurturing and educating the souls of these young creators that have dreams and want to know more, that we can really instill a lot of that kingdom culture in them. That's amazing. So Philip, if people want to follow you, where can they follow you? How can they get involved in the Creator Lab? Where can we direct them to?
Yeah. Really, I just tell people to follow me on Instagram. That's kind of my main gig. Philip LeClerc, 1L, LECLERC is my last name. And yeah, I love sharing my work on there. And really, if you're Creator Lab, I have a link in my bio to join Creator Lab. But yeah, it's exciting to really just to connect with individuals like yourselves even, and even locally and around the globe. But yeah, would love to.
Philip, one last question before we let you go, and we're going to definitely point people towards the Creator Lab. What would the 36-year-old today you say to the 15-year-old filmmaker?
You're going to go through the craziest journey that you could ever imagine, and you won't believe the story that you're on. You won't believe the story, and because it's going to be so incredible. And just when you think that you got it figured out, something else is going to happen that's going to show you that you don't have it figured out.
Yeah.
And for me, it's realizing that I haven't figured it out, but there's so many times in my career I think that I've got it down.
Yeah.
But I'm always learning, I'm always growing. And if I could tell myself, 20 years ago, hey, you're not going to have it figured out. And that's okay. Just being open about your process and your journey. Mm-hmm. And realizing you have so much to grow.
It's amazing.
Beautiful answer, man. And I love that.
Yeah.
Look for things that give you life, not money, not success, not fame or glory.
And focus on family.
Give you life.
Yeah. Focus on family.
Man, Philip, it's been such a privilege to get to spend some time with you.
Phil.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being. You've been watching the Storia podcast. We look forward to seeing you next time.
See you soon.